flag.
All right. Hey, Dom, how's it going, man?
Pretty good.
What
Excellent time. Pete and C.
Yeah, people, we're actually live. There's people in front of us. And, yep, everybody yell hi. All right, we prove it. And then make sure I don't get in trouble. Happy Valentine's Day, honey. Yep, I talked to you this morning.
Happy Valentine's Day.
All right, we're going to check that off the box. All right. Our session was successful. We're not going to sleep on the couch on Friday. All right. Thank you all for helping us with that. So we just went live. I think it's a great thing for us to officially have a pod. What do you think?
I think it's an excellent time for a pod.
So I think it's time for
the PACT pod.
It automatically kicks our mics back on live. So we were informing the audience as that intro's playing. We're just sitting patiently, and all of you aren't able to hear our bantering going on our microphones. So welcome to the PACT pod. My name is Eric Berno. I'm the Vice President of PACT, and with me, I'm joined with
Dom Salvucci. I'm the Southwest Regional Director of PACT.
And today we're talking about from creation to curation using podcasts in your classroom. So we've been fully overwhelming all of the people in the audience here, going over some of the different tools, some of the different items you're going to need, the things to think about, of how to do and come up with creating your podcast, your vodcast, whatever you'd like to call it. Now we're going to kind of tiptoe into how are we going to utilize it in our classrooms.
So as I mentioned earlier, before the cameras were on, I do a weekly podcast. I don't do the video. I always jokingly tell my students, I was told from a very young age I have a face for radio and a voice for silent movies. And it was shown today. I'm like, I should have gone to the spa because I have bags under my eyes. It's just been up late and not carrying on, but just doing a lot of work, trying to prep for this and trying to process information here at Pete and C. So it's been rough, but I do the audio podcast. I have my scripts. We go through things. We use Notion here. I use Google Docs for myself because it's just me. And it's an easy way to keep things organized. Now, in a regular podcast, I either have an iPad or iPad's easier for me to read my old age. I'll have an iPad up with Notion. So we have like an outline, not so much word for word script, but we have an outline of what we're covering. And then we have the questions we send out to our guests, copied and pasted back in so they know what to expect ahead of time.
And yeah, and usually we'll have an external screen, so we're kind of limited with our stuff here. But two Italians and a script, that does not mean well.
Yes.
So as you were talking, everybody in the audience was able to see. I went in down below and I said I wanted to present, and I chose to share a screen, and then I chose just the window I have open to the left. So now the pod, people that are listening at home or listening to this later have no idea what I'm talking about until I added the screen. So we click it, if I did it right. And it'll add to the screen. And the nice thing is, so on the fly, what's very important is that looks really tiny in a lot of space. So if I go here and I stretch the window that I'm using, now on the pod, it fills it a little nicer, right? So you can adjust on the fly, and it's going real time. All right, so I'm going to go a little bit further. Again, this is why dual screens is really a nice setup. I'm writing over top of my view here. So, Dom, we got creation to curation, podcast. Why don't you just talk a little bit about what we have here in the old school wiki?
Yeah, PB Works, old school wiki. You love it. It's free. I don't share this out. This is my personal one. I have a classroom one. If students want to, be a member, I'll let them for enrichment. But I put a little about Eric and I about the presenters. And then as we're building out like the presentation resources, the tools we use, it is not quite finished. As I'm lagging here, I clicked on the link. Because we've been changing things behind the scenes. We use Notion.so. Communication-wise, Slack, email, text. I'm still, we use a mixture of things because there are a number of Slack channels for the different organizations we belong to. Yes, we email so that we're not pulling them into Slack and bogging Slack down even more. And depending on who the guest is, in some cases, they're people we work with already, so we'll just use a text like, hey, here's information.
Real quick. So podcasting note, if you were watching, when I chose window, so this browser is what I'm showing live. So when I clicked on the link, it switched over to the tools we use, and that switched over here. Now I shrunk it to kind of fit things to show you. Again, I would stretch it back. As I scroll up and down, it's happening live, right? See, that's what they're seeing. But they're not seeing the cursor or anything on there. So just to keep continually letting you know, like, as things are working. So I'm going to go back to full screen with this as Dom's talking, so you can see it. Did I enlarge that enough for everybody? Is that all right there? All right, people in the back, good? Okay. All right.
So then the social media tools we use, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, consistency is the key. You want to have, like Classroom Podcast Saturday mornings. Our show, third Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. So we block out time and we know, like, okay, this night I can't do anything because we have the show. If you're trying to reach people, if you're all over the place, they're not going to know where to find you. And even like with school, after I set up my podcast, because it's a ballpark within a couple-hour range, depending on how the puppy's doing, what's going on at home, how chaotic is it. I send out a message to Schoology, podcast is up, it's published. And they know to go look for it. I was going to get rid of it because, like, please send that to us because that's when we know to go look. It's a reminder for us. So consistency is the key with all of this.
Another tip, just again, I get in trouble by this all the time. Make sure to add it to your family calendar that you're doing it, because that's important in my house, and I am horrible. So a lot of the guys laughed and the girls just went, "Oh, I know." So yes, it is that different type of brain. So make sure you add it to your family calendar. All right, back to your continued program.
Okay, so then during the show, what we use, StreamYard, which is, there is a free version we pay because we want to put the PACT branding on it. It's not technically, it's not our show. It's a PACT show. We're just the hosts. And that was something that I had to adjust to because I've always liked really bad Canadian and British humor. And my classroom, I'm always just using cheesy humor. And my daughter rolls her eyes. Like, students roll their eyes. They just kind of, kids will like laugh because they think they're going to get extra credit. I don't know who spread that rumor, but I did. And, but because it's PACT's branded show, it took me a while to get a little more comfortable because I was afraid of, offending somebody with like really stupid dad jokes. But that's something you have to keep in consideration. What is the purpose of it? Are you doing this for your school? Are you doing this for an organization? Or is this just your own podcast? And even because of that, some of the podcasts I listen to, I didn't put when we talk about, we have a Wakelet, and that's another tool we use. We'll get to that in a second. I didn't put some of the podcasts I listen to. They're not inappropriate, but some of them have episodes that could get on people's nerves. So I didn't put that in like the podcast I listen to because not everything is for everybody. So that's something you have to think about when you're creating a podcast, who your audience is, and what the situation is. And I would tell the kids, there's a multiple you. There's an appropriate you in front of your parents, appropriate you in school, appropriate you around your friends. It doesn't make you different. It doesn't make you fake. You have to learn how to function in different situations. And this is one of the things you have to think about when you're doing this. And I put the streaming live to YouTube in red with the exclamation points by going in and setting up the settings. After the show, we use Wakelet. We decided because we talk about things, but to have a platform where if we talk about different apps, which we do at the end of the show, and we talk with our guests about the things they're doing, the initiatives they're doing, what PACT is doing, because it is a PACT branded show. I use Wakelet, it's free. We created an account just for the PACT pod, and we push up the links to the different things I just talked about in that show, and then I have to go back. I'm backlogged on it. Drop that into the descriptions at Anchor and on YouTube, so people watching the podcast, you see the description, click on the link, and here are the links. Here's what we talked about, so you can listen to it, but you also have access to those links and what we discussed, so people can visually see and hunt those down later. I'm having to try and do Google searches all the time. And the Anchor is, I made the mistake. I was kind of doing it the easy way. I download on Anchor because using GarageBand, I download things and cut it up and then push it out in segments, because Anchor, you don't record live. Anchor, you record clips, you put it in any arrangement you want when you record it. You can drop commercials in, ads, and they give you the opportunity. You have to approve an ad on Anchor. Like, you can't you're sitting there and you all of a sudden you have like a not safe for family ad popping up in your stream. You have to approve it. You record it yourself. And you drop that in. It's just drag and drop. It's real simple. And push it out. Well, because now Anchor added, after we started doing that, they added a live audio feed or video feed. Excuse me. I would just download the audio and video and push it out, but then we stopped putting their ads in, so we lost ad revenue. So I have to go back through, and I think what we're going to do in the future, I'll push out the live video through Anchor so we have more viewers that way. But then I'll go through and I'll download the audio and I'll cut it up in GarageBand and push that out in segments. And we also, what we want to do is, we've been doing cutting things down. I use iMovie. I forget what you use for your video editing. Etch-a-Sketch or something like that. You're up there with like your, it's like film and
that's trademark.
razor blades.
That's trademark. It's Microsoft Sketch, right? Yeah. Just a little, that new one. I'm blanking on the name of it.
But go through and cut it out. We do segments. So if you don't want to listen to the whole podcast, which I don't know why anyone wouldn't want to do that, they could go through and just, here's the tech notes or here's the special guest. So we're doing smaller clips for people that don't want to listen to the whole thing. They don't have to fast forward. And we're putting different channels out on YouTube. Like, here's the full show. Here's the tech tips. And we, season 1, season 2. Here's the interview guests. So if people don't want the whole thing, we're trying to save them time, and hopefully that would bring people back. Like, okay, I don't want to listen to an hour and 15 minutes of these guys rambling about 2 football teams that didn't do well this season, didn't make it deep into the playoffs, or he gets upset. People outside of the Southwest region wouldn't want to hear about us winning race of the regions for how many years in a row, or their KTI pre-con, his team won't beat my team in competition. So I wouldn't want to listen to that part of bragging about that. So we can go into the segments.
So now, real quick, behind the scenes, right? You were seeing as he was talking, we had those moments where we really enjoy having those conversations, but it's like, oh wait, somebody has to be the producer. So again, I had to pull this up, even though they're not, like, the live audience isn't seeing this. I've got the street start up, and I was like, oh, that's right. We have some corporate council members that are part of PACT. I went on, I did the hello to 2023. As we're doing PD, we want to remind them, hey, check out these the opportunities. So whatever little things you have, as those stories are going, as you're talking, you want to add these. Now, the nice thing is, let's say you're doing something and Don was the featured speaker and he's just doing this. I would just say, okay, put me in the background.
And now I mute it. If we're in a different location, we're good. His microphone might pick a little bit of me up now, which I.
For the live audience, it's probably good that I keep my comment. Anyway, I can go to the background and then I can kind of do that production in the back end while he's talking. Remember to do, because that is like getting used to that. Really one of the biggest things. So your main screen should have a second monitor, or like he said with the iPad or something that you can use to kind of keep things organized. So, all right, so we're good with the next thing on. We're down to 9 minutes.
The bottom is just the links to PACT. One thing what's nice on the right-hand side of our interface, we could choose if we want comments. Eric talked about the banners, the branding, the private chat, but the comments, when people comment on social media, it pops up under that tab. And all we do is click on it. Now, the people that will be watching this, either in sessions, presenting, or they're teaching right now. And my neighbor, who's probably sleeping because he watches. He claims he doesn't listen to the show, but then after every broadcast, he gets the thing that he wants. And he just sits on my back deck and giggles and like picks on me for, you made a mistake about this, you did this wrong. And he's asleep right now, so he won't critique me until later. But they can type comments in, and it pops up. We just click on the comment on the sidebar, and it'll pop across the screen on the bottom. So if you have viewers and listeners commenting, you can push that out to the public to see.
Great.
And that gets an interaction with an audience, and hopefully it makes it feel more real.
Websites you pull from? Listed here.
Like which one?
Websites we pull from for what you're using them in your collection.
Let me find.
Which link is it? So one thing to talk about, we talked about like pulling in a couple lists of like where you can go to find different podcasts. Obviously, if you're looking at your Spotify, you're doing a quick search. There's a lot of different for the classroom. There's one that's learning maths is what it's called, and I'll pull it up. And it always every week it gives you like a math problem. They'll think about it over the weekend and how many different ways to answer it. People will kind of message in. Then they kind of share with their class. So I thought just spinning off that, I'm like, you know what? That'd be a great way for me to do in my math class. Just give me this question, see how they're thinking, but I do it along with the other podcasts, so I can play how they talk about different ways to answer the question, and my kids have answered it a different way. We talk about those more than one path to success.
If you go into go back to the homepage of this presentation, and there's resources. There's a list of Wakelets. So what we did was, as we've been researching this, and it's a work in progress. We're by no means near our final product. We're just bouncing ideas back and forth. So I was creating Wakelets of here's articles on tips on podcasting. Here's research. We were looking at different hosting sites that we could use. In the beginning, I used Podbean for my school podcast. I pay for that, because after 50 hours of content, it's not free, and I didn't want to dump old shows. And I was using that before Anchor came along. It's one of those things where I started before some of the newer tools were here, and I just didn't want to pull everything over because it's a major hassle. So there's other sites there. Some are better than what I use. Some are free. Anchor's great. Just can't record live. Podbean, I record on a computer. I have to record in the GarageBand and upload it, but on an iPad, I record straight in my iPad. And what I do with my home podcast for my class, my daughter was little. I gave her my iPad, and in Magic GarageBand, she made a couple loops, and she's made the music for the intro, the outro, the breaks, and when she found out I was advertising on it, she's like, how much money do I get? I'm like, not on this one. This one's free. But you have kids modify that, make music depending on what you have. Or in the past, the other show I had, Touchcast Studio, the kids would actually record. Band students in there would record. They did the artwork. Instead of using graphics, I had an old chalkboard. I bought chalk real cheap, and the kids would do different artwork for the show, and we filmed in front of the chalkboard instead of a green screen. And they were fired up to use their own artwork or record their own music for the show. So if you're doing something in the classroom, the kids appreciate that. I call them enrichment points. It's not straight up extra credit. And you can have the kids come in that way, where they're adding the back end content. They do the editing. My classroom live stream, internet news show that I have. They do the editing. They do the writing. Music and stuff. They can do that if they want. Draw the kids in that way. This is how we do it for PACT. Throwing in some what I do.
Yeah, we even talked about pushing it out, making it like a statewide scenario of making the intro, making the outro, having kids get involved in that, and trying to give them little perks for it or let them on the show. But there's all sorts of ways. But again, to me, I can only point you to Canva to say for any graphics, for any video, even any music, it is a phenomenal free educator course that you're using in your classroom. You can set up a classroom where kids are making it and you're seeing everything they're making, getting access to it to be able to review it and then kick it back to them to like, hey, add this, change this. So a lot of great stuff there. So, all right, so we're in our final 4 minutes of the show. So we will make sure on our resource list, it's actually already there. When you go into the app, we look at our thing, the key is listed, and we will be continually adding to that. We will also make sure to push that out on socials. One tip is if you're going to be sharing a website online, like using Bitly, and then you can just kind of set it, add the website you're going to do, and then you push it. And then again, if you're looking at analytics, you can see how many people clicked it, checked it. Was it just that night they checked it, or how far down the road? Great thing about Anchor is we can check and see how many people are watching it. They break it down male to female. Ironically, when ISTE was in 2019, we had a membership drive, and Dom and I were competing to get the most farthest away member to join. I want the most out of the country members to join. And Japan and Taiwan are the top highest listened to our podcast. So, people that we live with don't listen to our podcast, but when they're out of the country, they love us. So, and that's kidding. My wife listens every time. I'm sorry. Anyway, so how live?
IPVO camera. If I want to show something on camera that isn't physically able to be broadcast, I use the IPVO camera so I could scroll down on it, show things. $20 for this light. At Walmart, I missed a deal. They were $8 and I didn't buy them. And after I left, I was kicking myself. It's $20. It goes up to 5 feet high. It is rechargeable battery. So it's portable. Don't have to plug it in. I can charge it. And then if I'm sitting, I'm good. If I want to stand up, I can raise it up because I have a little desktop one I got from my daughter. She doesn't even realize I took it from her. But if you're on a limited space, it clutters where you're working. And with you can adjust your background on StreamYard too, kind of like you can with Zoom. So you could blur it. You could put green screen. You can do whatever. I sit in front of a bookcase with the golden shoe and some other PACT stuff behind me. For a while, I would sit at my bar and just blur the background. I had some like other stuff up so you didn't know I was sitting at the bar in my basement. That way you don't have to worry about what's behind you. You can blur the background, do the things, and it all comes with StreamYard, whether it's free or the paid tier.
All right, in the final 2 minutes, if you notice in the top left-hand corner, as you're looking at the screen here, it gave me a little number one with the eyeball, meaning one person's viewing, and one person, when I look, the icons are on YouTube watching it. Sometimes that's us making sure the feed's right, scanning the comments. Sometimes it's others. So that's where we're at there. So making sure you're consistent. We do have a closing. So
you clicked on the comment, it popped up on the show. It's live. Click it again, it comes off.
And real quick, I'll show you what he did is he went in the comments, and right here you can show and unshow, and you can start if you one of your favorites to be always at the top to bring it in. So a lot of times we'll post, they'll give us questions or information to go with it. So we appreciate you being here. And as always, we thank you for being a part of the PACT pod, because it is the voice of EdTech
in Pennsylvania and beyond.
PACT and the PACT pod would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to our corporate council sponsors. Thank you to ClassLink, Max Cases, GoGuardian, and Bloom. Thank you to Sam Labs, DRC, and EduSpire. We appreciate all these organizations partnering with PACT to help us to advance the education technology in Pennsylvania, which in essence helps students. We look forward to seeing you at PETC 2023. Thank you so much to the listeners. PACT is a phenomenal organization